There's no stopping what can be stopped. No killing what can't be killed. Something out there waiting for us. Something out there waiting for us.
You can run, but you can't hide from the west side. Night stalker, shit talker, run and tell them, Mr. Ellen.
Benjamin D'Souza, Carrier Skunt, back again, making another video. This video I want to make in response to some Okwu ID, and it's titled, "Is Hip Hop Negatively Affecting African Culture?" Episode 1, Part 1. And, you know, in this video, they made some valid points, but as always, there was a few things that I took exception to, and just play a clip here for you so you can see what I'm talking about.
Because African music has its own sound. It always has. So it's hard to say where things begin and where they end, because Africans took the same drums to the Caribbean, which led to people from the Caribbean going to America, and that birthed hip hop.
That right there, Africans took drums to the Caribbean, wrong. This whole premise that Africans came over here to the Americas is completely wrong. And this is a classic example of what I've coined the coming to America complex, where Africans propagate this notion that they're the first people on earth, and that essentially, quote unquote, African Americans are Africans, so everything that you guys create is by proxy attributed to us Africans, which is total bullshit. And after he made this statement, he had this smug, smirk, fuck look on his face, like he knows something that the average layman, quote unquote, African American doesn't. Because he knows, just like his fellow countrymen knows, that the whole entire transatlantic slave trade narrative is a crock of shit. There's been many Africans, notably Nigerians, whom I've known personally, who have stated that they had no knowledge of this transatlantic slave trade deal until they came to the Americas. So he knows what the fuck is up. He just wants to ride this coming to America wave as a sort of, you know, big brother deal of some sort. And even though I take exception with my own people who promotes this whole we're African bullshit, because a lot of our people know that they're not really African. They have parents and grandparents, especially if you're from the South. You have parents and grandparents who have told you that you're Blackfoot, Cherokee, Choctaw, or Washita, or whatever. They've told you. But I kind of give my people a little bit of cushion, per se, because, you know, going up through the public school system, being indoctrinated with this transatlantic slave trade narrative for 12 years straight, they beat it in your head year after year. You know, you a lot of people are susceptible to the programming. But this joker should know better. He should know better. And okay, all right, since we're on this subject, let's just, you know, just touch on this transatlantic slave trade narrative real quick. You know, depending on who you go to, where you get this source from, you know, some sources say 12 million, other sources say 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, but, you know, I'll choose a modest number. Let's roll with 17 million. So the story goes that allegedly 17 million Africans were taken from the west coast of Africa in the transatlantic slave trade over the course of 250 years. Okay, 17 million divided by 250 is 69,000, right? That's 68,000 quote unquote Africans being transported a year. 68,000 divided by 365 days in a year is 186 per day. You mean to tell me that Europeans transported 168 Africans a day across the Atlantic by sailboat, which was a journey of 4 to 6 months? Get the fuck out of here. And even let's say they weren't transporting Africans every day. Let's say it was every 3 days. That's still 560 Africans a day, every 3 days. On a 4 to 6 month journey across an ocean. Like, come on, man. I mean, they were using sailboats. They didn't have, mean green bleach or any other type of cleaning solution to maintain, you know, maintain, make it sterile and sanitary and whatnot. They didn't have any refrigeration to preserve foods and whatnot. So you mean to tell me that it was just 300 to 400 or 500 Africans stuffed in the bottom of a boat, chained together, shitting and pissing on each other for 4 to 6 months out of a year on their way to the new world? Fuck out of here. And then when you want to talk about just the weather patterns here in the West, you got hurricane season from August through September. So ain't shit moving in and out the ports from August through September. From Virginia all the way down to the Caribbean. Ain't shit moving in or out. It's hurricane season. Get out of here. Then you mean to tell me you're gonna bring over 400 or 500 butt naked slaves in up to Virginia where it can get down to freezing up around the months of November, December, and January? Like, ideally, the only prime months out of a year that you would have to supposedly transport these Africans into the Americas would be from, let's say, maybe March through July. So this whole notion of a transatlantic slave trade is entire bullshit. And he knows this. But like I said, he wants to be, Prince Hakeem from Coming to America. What, you want us to throw rose petals at your feet? Fuck out of here, dude. Now I'm about to play you another sound clip of this same gentleman talking, and he's talking about Nigerian or African Afrobeats artists using the N-word. And I want you to pay very close attention about what he says in regards to Africans using the N-word. Pay very close attention.
I don't understand why David O is there screaming. David O really annoys me when he starts screaming out N-words. Number one, you've got no connections to it. Number two,
Freudian slip much. Freudian slip much. Let's run that back. I want you to hear that again.
connected to in a way. I don't understand why David O is there screaming. David O really annoys me when he starts screaming out N-words. Number one, you've got no connections to it. Number two, it's not part of your culture. It's not part of the music that it's not part of what we're communicating. And the third point is that I personally feel is a negative word.
So he explicitly states that an African has no connection to the N-word. So if this African has no connection to this word that is synonymous with African Americans, then ergo, he has no connections to quote unquote African Americans, which completely nullifies your previous statement about Africans bringing over drums to the Caribbean. Get the fuck out of here. Oh yeah, he has a third point. I want you to really hear this and pay very close attention to when he starts going into his third point, how he's stuttering and shit. Just listen.
Two in a way. I don't understand why David O is there screaming. David O really annoys me when he starts screaming out N-words. Number one, you've got no connection to it. Number two, it's not part of your culture. It's not part of the music that it's not part of what we're communicating. And the third point is that this is, I personally feel, is a negative word. And you've got kids growing up who have no connection to that history using a highly...
So you have kids growing up who have no connection to that history, i.e., quote unquote, African American history. This fake ass black thought from looking ass motherfucker. So you want to play hokey pokey with us. You want to put your left foot in and then pull your left foot out. You know, you all in with us when it's all good. But then all the shit that you don't want from us, you want to detach yourself. That's when you on this, oh, you guys don't have any connection with the African Americans. But when it's some shit that you want to take credit from us, oh yeah, Africans brought over drums and, you know, they highly influenced the Caribbean. Bullshit. You're full of shit and you're dishonest. You're coming with this coming to America complex. I see right through you.
Equally as bad, I think the N-word has a specific, vicious, kind of brutal history of people being stripped of their humanity and being turned into Africans, from Africans into
Bingo. Being turned into Africans. Did you hear what he said? That's another Freudian slip. People being stripped of their humanity and being turned into Africans. Let me play that back just in case you missed it.
vicious, kind of brutal history of people being stripped of their humanity and being turned into Africans, from Africans into enslaved peoples. And I think...
being turned into Africans. Freudian slip much?
I don't agree with it, but if African Americans who have had that first-hand experience say, this is how we're going to navigate this word, and this is how we are going to have a relationship with the word, I can't really tell them anything because that is not my direct history. But I think...
Exactly. Our history is not your direct history. Exactamundo. I couldn't agree with you more. And our history is not your direct history. Our peoples are from two different houses. We're from the Americas. You're from Africa. So do not try to take credit for the shit that we create. We created hip hop. We got our own shit over here. We influenced y'all. Y'all didn't influence, not the other way around.
I can, from some aspects, from an outsider looking in, I can see the N-word, and the N-word is very, very different to anything else I can think of, because I don't know, and as Joseph said...
Yeah, you're right about that. You are an outsider. And from what I've heard so far in this episode of this, you are attempting to colonize our culture and appropriate it. Get away from me, colonizer.
Everything on this conversation on the N-word, and just even with the use of all profanity, it made me think a lot about hip-hop. And this is why I say that as much as we can say that the culture has done a full circle...
Wrong. The culture has not done a full circle because it did not start with you. Our culture did not start with you. So you guys did not influence us, and then we took pieces from your culture, and then now we put it out to the world, and now it's going back to... the culture is going full circle is total bullshit because we did not come from you. We did not come from you. Just because drums are in Africa, bongo drums, djembes, whatever you want to say, doesn't mean that you motherfuckers have a monopoly on drums. Motherfuckers was using drums in the Middle East, the Far East, Europe, and the Americas all across the world, you don't have a monopoly on the drums. So automatically, just because you have some dark skin, wide nosed, big lip, nappy headed people in the Caribbeans beating on some drums, oh, those are Africans. Get the fuck out of here. The culture didn't go full circle. It didn't go full circle. So that's a crock of shit. And stop using all that them bleaching skin products. You look ridiculous.
We can't, because hip hop was born from anger. Like,
And wrong. Hip hop was not born from anger. Hip hop was born from a sense of, oh, you don't want us to be involved in your mainstream shit. Well, we're gonna come over here and start our own shit. It was not born from anger. It was black people being shut out of mainstream music and whatnot. So we took another form of music and we did our own thing. Like back in the Harlem Renaissance when we created jazz. What all the white people want to go to listen to jazz, they came down to Harlem to chill with the Negroes and listen to this new thing called jazz. We created our own shit. We built it and motherfuckers came. It wasn't out of anger. It was out of, okay, we're going to do our own thing, which is the same thing that you guys complain about throughout this whole video about how your peoples in the Afro beats are being heavily influenced by us. Y'all not hip hop. Cause hip hop is we're gonna do our own thing. Y'all following our lead.
I think we can all agree on that. Even like things like the blues and things like that. This all started when slaves were cleaning and they would sing and.
That is a crock of shit because, like I stated previously, the transatlantic slave trade is a complete narrative. We outnumbered the colonizers 100-1. We worked in the cotton fields more so as employees.
A lot of the old music, like the blues, it was very sad. Like even that song where it's like, oh, wade in the river and things like that. These were very, very.
First of all, it's wading in the water. And of course, the blues came out of sadness because our country had been conquered and colonized, and we had been marginalized. And it's wade in the water. Get it right. Wade in the water. Wade. That's my shit though, for real.
Sad, deep songs born from suffering. And then obviously, as when hip hop culture started, this was, well, I wouldn't say it started specifically, but the birth of hip hop and things like that, they started around the time when people were going through the civil rights era.
Wrong. Civil rights era, it was in the 60s. In the 70s, you had the funk. And then the late 70s, you had more so the early hip hop, like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and Africa Bambaataa and whatnot. Then, you know, and DJ Kool Herc, you know, and all them going on into the 80s and whatnot. Back in the civil rights era, it was R&B, Marvin Gaye, what's going on type of shit. So you're incorrect on that.
And people were angry, and music was an expression. And that's why you have people who swear, because they were so angry, they needed to get out their frustration. If you listen to old school rap and things like that, even if you listen to someone like Jay-Z talking about selling dope, people talking about, you know, there's nothing they can do to leave the projects and things like that, they're angry.
All right, enough of that. Let me go to another point. All right, this is the same chick that was talking in the previous clip that I played, and she's talking about, you know, now she's delving into the early patrons of Afro beats, and just listen, pay very, very close attention. She commits a Freudian slip here. Pay attention.
And even when, like I said, when you listen to Fela Kuti, Labaja was a romantic. The music he made was made for love. Fela made music that made you want to stand up, dance, and worship in his shrine. And this is the birth of Afrobeat. So for you to come and then almost you adopt this angry culture that you have no connection with, we don't share the same experiences as people in America.
Ding, 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 ding. You adopt this culture that you don't have anything to do with. So there is no full circle bullshit that you're trying to propagate. You're not the princess of Zamunda, okay? Get off of your coming to America high horse. 50 Cent once put in one of his mixtapes back in the late 90s, early 2000s, he said, and I quote, "You not like me, and I'm not like you." And that's okay. That's okay. Afro beats, do your thing. But you're not going to sit up here and say, well, we influence reggae, we influence soca, we influence dancehall, we influence hip-hop and rap. Bullshit. No, you didn't. You weren't over here. You wasn't with us shooting in the gym. Fuck out of here.
We don't share the same, the same connection to the N word. And even again with profanity, there isn't a need to use it as all.
There's a lot of things you don't share the same connection with as it pertains to us. There's a lot. And if you just be honest with us, we stop giving you the side eye.
Which he said. So why do you come on music? And especially, like I said, with the N word, I completely agree. We have no reason, like, I'm not going to lie, I say that word. But now, as I'm trying to become more of someone in the media and things like that, I'm trying to stop using that.
Okay, all right, she's just rambling on right now. Let me go to this other point right here. Let me fast forward. All right, I fast forwarded a little bit. This same chick that was talking in the previous clip, she is just full of just gems. She is such a doll, let me tell you. But she is confessing on how us as the Negro American has influenced their culture, their musical culture and whatnot. I mean,
I don't know why, with African culture, we always feel the need to adapt it and change it because people like Vibes Cartel still sounds, when you listen to him, you know that this is a Jamaican reggae dancehall artist, but he hasn't changed, even the way they speak, the things they say, they still use the same words, but we feel the need to adapt and change and do this and do that. And it's watering down our culture for someone else's consumption and acceptance, which if you're an
that begs the question. There's nothing new under the sun. So if we're influencing you today, who's to say that all of your practices and customs and cultural norms and whatnot, who's to say that we didn't influence you back then? Because I stand firm. We've been here in America. We've been here in the Americas. We're the first Americans, and we will be the last Americans. Scarface said it best when he said, when the smoke dies down, there's still a nigga left to deal with. We ain't going nowhere. So this old nigga in the beginning, old low budget, black thought looking ass nigga, talking about, well, Africans brought over drums to the Caribbean. There's nothing new under the sun, big fella. If we're influencing you today, who's to say we didn't bring our drums over there to Africa and influence y'all?
Regret it, nope, said it, yep. Listen to my big black boots as I step. Niggas had to break you off something, give up. Regret it, nope, said it, yep. Listen to my big black black boots as I step. Niggas had to break you off. Regret it, nope, said it, yep. Listen to my big black boots as I step. Niggas had to break you off something, give